Have you ever heard of phobia? I'll give you a clue. A flash of one of these will give you an instant panic attack. I'm talking about rat phobia, which is much more common than you think. I'm Dr. Carlinda Linder, clinical psychologist and CBT therapist, and today I'm going to explain how we use CBT to treat rat phobia. And to do this, I'm going to take you through a case study, a success story that somebody very kindly gave me permission to share. So let's call him Tom. He's in his early 40s, a married father of 2, and he works in sales. In fact, he's had a very successful career. Normally, he's a very confident, outgoing person, doesn't mind risk, always keen on an adventure. He lives in another part of the world, in a city where rats are actually becoming much more common. And this is in fact a well-known first world city. Now, when Tom was growing up there were no rats around, certainly not as many as there are now. So perhaps he just wasn't used to the idea of rats. I was also very surprised when I found out what a rat problem they had there. And this all started about 18 months before he came to see me after a late night scare. So he'd come home late, he'd opened the garage, got out of his car, and a rat darted across the floor, not too far from him. Well, he had an instant panic attack, had a huge shock, adrenaline pumping, ran out, locked the door behind him, and then just wouldn't park in his garage ever since, or go in there if it was nighttime or if the lights weren't on. Now, a little bit of context. Tom had been going through quite a rough time at work, so his stress levels were very high. And this incident stuck in his mind in a way that he just didn't understand. And after a while, rats became symbolic of loss of control, which was really his worst case mental movie. And of course, that's a part of it. But what he didn't know was that the fear itself was actually a conditioned fear. High stress levels paired with an unusual negative surprise equals phobia. So initially, we started with psychoeducation, which we always do at the beginning of a CBT process, to make sure that we both have a very clear understanding of what's happening and what the agenda is, and then how the techniques will work. So I explained how conditioning works in the brain, and we looked at the relationship between thoughts, feelings, and behavior. In this case, avoidance behavior because of strong fear, and also embarrassment in case one of his friends found out about it. We flagged his fear of failure and high stress levels for when we'd finished work on the phobias, because he really wanted to start there urgently. The next part was the C in cognitive therapy, which is the thinking part, your cognitions, or the story you tell yourself. So for Tom, it was, rats are aggressive. They'll bite or they'll jump on me. If I see one, I'll panic and I'll freeze. I'm so pathetic being scared of a rat. And these thoughts, after 18 months, weren't being questioned. They were just being believed because they'd been cycling through his mind for so long. And Tom's fear of rats was not just based in catastrophic predictions. They also came with strong mental images, which made their impact worse. So, for example, it'll bite me. They're diseased and filthy. I'll get sick. I'll freak out and embarrass myself and scream or faint. And when we explored each one, Tom began to notice how often he was overestimating threat and underestimating his ability to cope. So we then compared facts with assumptions. For example, how often do rats actually attack people, especially at home in your garage? Could he handle seeing one and still function? How many people in the city actually do get bitten by rats, and in what context? At home, on the street, someone who's homeless, a bit different. Are pet rats dangerous? Had he ever actually lost control during a panic attack from seeing a rat? And so with time, we replaced the mantra in his head, rats equal disease and danger, with things like rats are unlikely to attack me. I can handle a few moments of discomfort if I see one. Seeing a rat doesn't mean that something bad will definitely happen. And this helped him regain his confidence in his ability to cope with the feeling of discomfort, which was very useful for the next part, exposure. Reframing his thoughts really helped him to shift from I can't handle this to I may feel anxious, but I can cope, which is incredibly important before you start your exposure hierarchy. So Tom had 3 steps to begin with. Number 1, looking at cartoon rat images and then watching a few little videos, watching short clips of pet rats, and then watching rats at a pet store behind the glass, of course. And then we were ready to move to the garage where the original incident had happened. And this is where we needed to do some exposure to seeing an actual rat. But because Tom lived in a different city to me, in fact, a different country, we needed to get creative. So I sent him 2 images of rats. This is more like a mouse. Started with this one and then with this one, which is much more realistic. And he needed to cut these out and then put them at various places in the garage or in the garden. And once he had done that, I showed him my little rat toy, little plush toy, looks quite realistic. And he then had to repeat this in the garage, in the garden, with the lights on in daylight. But what was missing was the unexpected factor. And the problem was that Tom still felt very embarrassed about this phobia. So we had to enlist some help. And in a strange way, it worked out perfectly because it was his teenage son who he actually decided to ask. And his son embraced everything. In fact, he even tied some fishing gut to the point of the rat and pulled it across the garage floor closer and closer to his dad. And what I thought was a wonderful bonus was that Tom was demonstrating that instead of being less than or pathetic, it's actually really healthy and courageous to seek help when you need it. And I think this is incredibly important for a young boy, especially, because as we know, men are often more reluctant to seek help for their mental health. So as you can see, we did each step with a plan and a debrief after. And Tom also used grounding techniques during the exposures, like feeling the ground under his feet and repeating to himself, this is a conditioned fear, I can handle this feeling, I'll wait it out. So after 6 sessions, Tom could definitely feel a shift when he walked into a dark garage with just a few moments of anxiety, which also faded quickly. And he even helped a friend clean out an old storeroom, which was something he could never have imagined doing 6 months earlier. So in conclusion, when we avoid our fears, they grow to enormous proportions. But when we face them gently, gradually, with support, they shrink. Phobias don't have to rule your life. CBT offers a science-based path out of fear. And remember, you learnt it, you can unlearn it. If this video has been helpful, please give it a like, subscribe for more, and also please do share with anyone who could benefit. Thanks for watching.